over the past month, couple of weeks, something like that, Royce the 5'9" and Lupe Fiasco have been playfully throwing jabs at each other. And this all really stemmed from a tweet from RJ Payne, which I believe said something along the lines of, "No one's touching him and Ransom when it comes to rapping." To which Royce obviously chimed in, and there was a few conversations, and eventually it got to the point where Lupe and Royce were kind of bickering. And Lupe, I think last week, went on like a 9-minute freestyle on IGTV, and then just last night, Royce the 5'9" responded with Silence of the Lambda. And then just a few hours later, as Lupe is one to do, he responded with Steve Jobs' SLR 3.5. This is a very interesting beef, so let's go bar for bar and break down the lyrics to SLR 3.5. If you are new here, these breakdowns are basically where I'll go through a newish track and try to decipher what the artist is saying. I'm not always correct, so if I've missed something or misinterpreted anything, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Also, with this track, the lyrics were not readily available, so I went and transcribed it myself. So if you see any errors in my transcription, let me know as well. So it starts off with a bit of an intro, basically just Lupe apologizing to the soundtrack. There's not a whole lot to say there, so we'll get right into his long-ass verse.
You see, it takes niggas weeks. They need a comfort zone and some beats. Lollygaggers to polymatters that go over responses. Get all laid and technical in their content.
This is immediately, I mean, if you're not aware, it's going to be immediately directed towards Royce, because, you know, it took Royce a while to put out some sort of response. And also, it's kind of like him just saying, like, yo, you haven't responded to other people. Like, it's taking you so long to do that. Like, he is lollygagging over this response. And then, to do so, he's getting all technical with his content.
Press record. Then I bring the receipts. Lambda, lambda, lambda. I think that shit was sweet.
So when he's getting finally ready to release this, he hits record, and then Lupe brings in the receipts. As if Royce is just saying some nonsense. And I probably should also ask if you guys want a breakdown of the Silence of the Lambda track, because this whole first little bit is basically a direct response to that track. But yeah, he's just, you know, referencing Lambda, 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 the Silence of the Lambda, and the receipts being like, nah, this is what I'm actually about. Basically trying to prove Royce wrong.
I wish I could just kiss you on the cheek. Nerds have their hands in everything. Gangsters won't even touch the police. Won't you tell your niggas get that?
So continuing on that, oh, that was sweet line. He's like, I wish I could just kiss you on the cheek. Almost like he's just kind of playing with Royce at this point. He's like, oh man, you actually took the time to put out a diss track directed towards me? Oh, that's cute. In this scenario, Lupe is the nerd, Royce is the gangster. Nerds have their hands in everything. Not necessarily just, you know, Lupe being in everything, which he kind of plays around with everything, honestly.
Take some of them cool fullies and go and get some of my shit back. Your problem is that you ain't never had no impact. Kit Kats and chit chat and syntax won't make up for how much you sit back. I think that nigga's scared. So the cool foolies and get some of our shit back is a direct response to something that Royce said on Silence of the Lambda, which was also just in direct reference to Lupe. So in case you weren't aware that he was talking about Lupe, the cool and foolies is right there, really. And then he's just going, just keeps going in on Royce. He's like, the problem is with you that you had no impact. Like, that's kind of fucked up. All this chit chat and syntax and Kit Kats won't make up for how much you just kind of lay in the cut. And I think that's him referencing how they have a podcast together, which made this whole thing interesting because now people are like, oh, what's going to happen to the podcast? We'll get into that. He never leave heaven because he already dead. Damn. Nigga, are you insane? What's the point in knowing how to point and aim? If the niggas you gon' bang look exactly the same.
He never leaves Heaven because he already dead. Heaven is the studio that Royce owns, I believe it is. But he never leaves Heaven because he's already dead. He's always in the studio trying to do something else to make himself, I guess, in Lupe's mind, relevant and have some sort of impact, but he's already dead. And he's like, are you insane? What's the point in knowing how to point and aim a gun if the people that you're going to shoot look exactly the same? Well, he's shooting aimlessly, essentially. He's not even really paying attention to who he's aiming at. He's just firing off.
That ain't motherfucking cool. That's a motherfucking shame. This ain't no motherfucking game. That's why I think you are a motherfucking lame. We both wear glasses.
He's basically shaming him. He's like, how, like, the street life that you feel or that he might be promoting, he doesn't do that as much now. He's like, yo, this street life that you are involved with, like, why? Why are you even doing this? The we both wear glasses goes into the next bit.
The difference is I was in school thinking it was cool. You was thinking of skipping classes. Listening to your track record, I can see you was skipping classics. I did it on my first one and delivered to the masses.
So yes, both Royce and Lupe wear glasses, but he then applies it to their past, I guess. So Lupe, he wore glasses they both have to wear glasses because they need them, but he's in school and he thought school was cool. He thought it's cool to know things and be smart, whereas to him, Royce was just thinking of skipping classes and just, going and doing other things. And then he's like, yo, listening to your track record, like your previous albums, I could tell that you were skipping classics. Just couldn't make a classic album in Lupe's mind. Lupe's like, you have never had a classic. And then he's like, but for me, my first album, Food and Liquor, classic. It might be at that point where we can consider it, but that's a different discussion. That there's more to it than just saying it's a classic. It was a well-received album right out the gate.
Your songs are immemorable, your verses are impenetrable. I ain't even listened to that diss record. I only fuck with you because your interviews.
There's nothing about you that has longevity. Your songs are not memorable. They're not penetrable. Like, I don't remember any of those songs. Nothing really penetrates your soul. Like, nothing really connects with people. And he didn't even listen to the diss record. So that makes me think, like, this diss record, like the Silence of the Lambdas? Because if that's the case, okay. That's kind of messed up. You just like, whatever you said, these are the things I'm going to say anyway.
I ain't even trip when you call me a bitch. I was like, look at Salem, calling me a witch. Look at how they made him. Look how much they gave him.
I ain't even trip when you call me a bitch. Royce said it on a podcast or an IG Live. To be fair, I don't follow their IG Live or their podcast that closely. I just hear what people say. But from what I've heard, people have said that he just called him a bitch. And then I was like, look at Salem calling me a witch. So the Salem witch trials, but also Salem the cat from Sabrina the Teenage Witch is calling him a witch. Look at how they made him, look at how much they gave him, like directly to Royce, or like talking about Royce to other people. And he's like, look at him, look what he got. And he continues on.
Look at all the assists, nigga. If it wasn't for Premiere, you wouldn't be. If it wasn't for, nigga, I got a dozen more.
Look at all the assists. So, if you don't know Royce, his career has been, I think the majority of people know of him from either Bad Meets Evil, Slaughterhouse, or Prime, the major collaborations that he's done in his career. Not a whole lot of people are likely to know of him from his solo work, which I guess you could say that. But basically he's saying, like, yo, you weren't even really on anyone's radar until Premiere. And I think Prime dropped in like 2013. So you've had this entire career and you'd only just recently started getting into people's heads. That's messed up. And then he says, if it wasn't for, 4 times, playing on 4 and the number 4.
And then he's got a dozen more. Hove think I'm Hove, Nas think I'm Nas. That's the trick. You ain't gotta think when niggas already think you are. Mwah. Your story crooked and your book too. Hove think I'm Hove, Nas think I'm Nas. Basically saying, like, they think that Lupe is at their level. Not necessarily that Hove is not going to say like, hey, you Hove. No. Hove is like, yo, you are dope. Like, you are just one of them ones. Same with Nas. And then your story crooked and your book too. Your story, I'm not exactly sure what he's in reference to there, but the book, I mean the Book of Ryan, which is the story of his life essentially. Alright. Past the dumb shit, but you would shoot somebody's son holding sunships. I wish they would have left biz here and fucking took you. And all your hyper-technical hypotheticals in life, I've never met with you. Past the dumb shit. I mean, just, you know, whatever. Ignore the dumb shit. But you shoot somebody's son holding sunships. That is in reference to what he said on Silence of Lambda. I know there's more to that, but I'm just honestly drawing a blank right now. And then he continues on, I wish they would have left biz here and fucking took you. That's fucked. I don't know if this is a friendly beef anymore, just based off of that line as well as the couple from before. Biz Markie, if you aren't aware, recently passed away due to complications from type 2 diabetes. And he's basically saying, I wish Biz didn't die, and instead you did. And he's apparently never actually physically met with Royce, which surprised me, but okay, cool. From a distance, I accepted you from the podcast. I've been kind of skeptical. This ain't our first class. This is just one of the several. I ain't trying to bash, but it was like you was off your schedule. From a distance, he accepted him, like as peers, essentially. They respected each other, or at least Lupe respected Royce. And from the podcast, he's been kind of skeptical. Like, I guess the way that Royce acts on the podcast. Again, I haven't really been keeping up with the podcast, so I don't know what goes on in those conversations. This isn't my first class. This isn't my first rodeo. This is just one of the many courses I've taken. But it's like he was off his schedule, which to me sounds, well, one, it just kind of sounds good here, but could be more into like something's off with us. Like there's something just not clicking. You was throwing more than jabs. I was like, this nigga's incredible. We had to fucking edit you. I don't know what vegan Detroit vegetable Dr. Sebi diet infected you to think that we shared the same metrics. You was throwing more than jabs to Lupe, I'm presuming. You know, because he did call him a bitch earlier. So he's like, you were throwing more than jabs. Like, you was following through. You got a hook in there. You got an uppercut. This dude's incredible. And it got to the point where they had to edit him and just cut out some things that he may have said. And then he just goes even more into him. I don't think that, or I'm not aware if Royce is vegan, but the whole Dr. Sebi diet, Royce does seem like the type of person to fully believe in that sort of lifestyle and diet, just based on some of the opinions he's had in the past. But he's like, I don't know what you eating to think that we share the same metrics. So somehow I was less than you, and I was the type of nigga that you could get really disrespectful to. I ain't never lectured you. I get energetic and joke. He's like, I don't know what you've been eating to make you think that I'm less than you or that you can be disrespectful to me. Like, I never was that way. I never lectured you. I was always energetic and joking. And real talk, nigga, I ain't never disrespected you. I'ma punch you in your fucking face, and we all think it's silly. I'm thinking like, won't this bitch nigga clean up his fucking city? Continue on the whole didn't disrespect you. He literally says, I never disrespected you. And then at this point, he's like, I'm just gonna punch you in your fucking face, and we'll all think it's silly. Because, you know, the way that Lupe is saying that he acts on the podcast is like he's energetic and joking. So he's like, I'm punching you in the face, and we'll all think it's a joke. But no. And then in his mind, he's like, yo, won't you just clean up your city? Like, do something? Which, I mean, I don't know exactly how bad it is in Detroit, but I know, like in major cities like that,
there are issues. So he's like, why don't you go clean up your city?
I mean, you got all of the clout. You know how to bring all them niggas out. You can walk the walk. I mean, we seen you walk all over your house. But me and Mickey is geeks.
I mean, you got all that clout, you can bring them all out. Basically saying, like, you have people that can, show out and show up and help clean up the city. Why not recruit them? Like, come on. You can walk the walk. We've seen you walk all over your house. Like, why can't you do this? And then him and Mickey is geeks because of the next line.
Because you got some heat. Like, I didn't go to the closet and put guns all over the couch. Your mental health hotline, I think that shit is grown up. But you're the very last nigga that should be picking that phone up.
So him and Mickey Facts are geeks because, they're into the lyrics. And because Royce has got some heat. And then, because of that heat, Lupe just went to the closet and just laid out all his guns. He's like, okay, well, I need to respond somehow with this, or to that. And then the mental health hotline that Royce had recently started up is grown up, and he applauds him for that there. But then he's like, nah, you're the very last one that should be picking that phone up. Basically insinuating, like, I want your mental health to deteriorate, and I don't want you getting help for it.
I spit your verse to get immersed inside my enemy, and to remind you they gotta go through you just to get to me. Subtle subordination, perpetual sidekick nigga, sort of a station that you used to.
He spits his verse to get immersed inside his enemy, which makes so much sense. It's like, you gotta know your enemy in and out before you can really do anything to them. Or if you want to be effective, I guess you could say. And then that's also to remind Royce that you got to go through you to get to me. Like, you got to go through yourself to get to me. Lupe is so engulfed in what Royce has said in general that he has basically a barrier. Like, anything that Royce says is kind of irrelevant because he knows him so well. He's like, all right, well, if you're really trying to get to me, you got to get through all this thing that I built up, essentially.
So you ain't gotta get all extremely too personal on your albums when you not surrounded by bigger artists to fucking boost you. Nigga, you called me, I didn't recruit you, but no regrets, I take it as a test. You said, Lupe, you gotta have some grace.
He's just going in even further. He's like, you're just a sidekick, so you don't have to go all personal on your albums when you're not surrounded by all these big artists, just because they're not there to boost you. Basically talking about how, kind of like the whole Drake effect, like if Drake is on an unknown rapper song, it's immediately going to blow up. But to, I guess, try to get more fans, sometimes they get a little more introspective and try to be personal. But he's just saying, nah, don't do that. You call me, I didn't recruit you. I guess that's how the podcast started. But no regrets, I take it as a test. You said, Lupe, you gotta have some grace. He's taking the podcast as a test. Like, that whole conversation thing that they have going on. And then he's like, Lupe, you gotta have some grace, which I guess makes sense because, I mean, I've, again, heard just kind of snippets of what Lupe would be saying on IG Live. And he tends to be very blunt, which I appreciate because how else do you get through people's heads sometimes? But he's like, nah, you gotta slow your roll.
Not be so haphazardly to put the truth all in their face. Now that I think about it, that's kind of half and half. If a nigga asking you for the strap, why would you keep it in the stash? If you ran the world, we'd get defeated in a flash.
So basically just continuing on that whole, don't be so in their face about things. Just, give it to them nicely or, just ease them into it. And then he's like, yo, that's kind of half and half. Like, if your homie asked you for the strap, why would you just keep it in the stash? Why wouldn't you just give it to him? And then he's like, if you ran the world, we'd be defeated in a flash. Maybe talking about how maybe Royce is just slow to react.
If you really gonna be the boss, can't keep secrets from the staff. I learned that in the streets. Nigga sweeping trash, keeping my city clean while you was talking about beating a nigga's ass. That shit is whack.
I don't know. So if you're really gonna be the boss, you can't keep the secrets from the staff. I don't know what secrets he's talking about, but sometimes things are on a need-to-know basis, I guess. But he's like, no. If you're really trying to be effective, you got to be transparent. And he learned that from being in the streets while he was sweeping trash. A callback to how Royce isn't keeping the city clean or cleaning up the city.
Long live backpack rap. Fuck these monster drinking, new age conscious thinking. Farrakhan today, gangster tomorrow. One foot in they sorrow, another foot in the trap. Killers who easily triggered by little niggas attacks, who had the audacity to ask rappers to rap. Facts. Mickey. Hey, listen, I ain't done, nigga. Take the shit out.
So I guess you can call that the end of the first verse. But basically, you know, long live backpack rap. Lupe is essentially a backpack rapper, and I guess technically Royce to some extent, at least back in the day. I don't know what backpack rap is even considered these days, but sure. And he's basically just like, man, fuck everyone in the new age. Like, you guys are just like so sensitive, I guess, because they're triggered by Lupe or just other people asking, like, yo, rap.
Hey, in 7 minutes he did it. If he knew how to freestyle, he could have rented heaven for 7 minutes and been done what needed to be done by the second sentence. All his extra innings may come across as master.
So Royce's response, or diss, was also just about 7 minutes. So that's what he's referencing there. And he's like, yo, if you actually knew how to freestyle, you could have just rented out Heaven Studio for 7 minutes. He's calling him out on freestyle, like, yo, you don't know how to freestyle. This was clearly written because it took you so long to do so. And also, it's just so long. You could have rented out Heaven for 7 minutes. And, you know, that's a good enough amount of time to knock out a freestyle that could have been ended by the second sentence, or the diss could have been ended by the second sentence. But also the Heaven for 7 minutes, kind of a, what is it, 7 Minutes in Heaven, like that game that everyone would like talk about in the 90s, like where you spin the bottle and you go into the closet with someone for 7 minutes. And then he's basically just saying, like, all these extra innings that you got, like these extra lines and like the extra track length that you've created may come across as master.
But my impressions apprentice, your penmanship has the fingerprints of a gimmick and affection and the intimacy of impressions of that nigga you friends with. I ain't gotta say it.
In his mind, Lupe's mind, these extra innings, it's just, you're an apprentice. And this whole thing is a gimmick. You're doing all these things, but it's not really that great. But you're getting all the affection and intimacy of these impressions from your friends. But I ain't gotta say it. And then I don't know exactly who he's referencing with the friend, because he continues on and starts talking about it, but I'm kind of clueless at the moment.
Say it, I can't even blame you. The nigga's one of my favorites. Fuck that, back to my status. All icy, talk spicy like the house of a traitor.
Yeah, so he's saying that dude is one of my favorites, assuming his friend. I don't know who he's talking about there. Maybe Eminem. That's the only person I can think of, but I don't want to be one of those guys that just brings Eminem into every conversation about Royce. All icy, talk spicy, like the house of trade. I don't know what that last actual word was, but someone's all icy, like iced out, and he's talking spicy. I'm assuming Royce is the one that's talking spicy.
Inwardly successful when outwardly I've made it. Clearly, if I was a regular rapper, you wouldn't even come near me. This nigga think he's Siri, your answer to your query.
Inwardly successful, outwardly I've made it. Lupe is successful, like in terms of like himself. Like he feels like he's reached a level of success. But also on the outside, he has made it. Like he's well known enough. And he's at a point in his career where he's content, I feel. If Lupe was just a regular rapper, Royce wouldn't even bother with him. So he's basically saying, like, the only reason that you're messing with me is because you know I'm dope. We kind of start getting to the title of this SLR being Steve Jobs, with him talking about Siri and what's the answer to your queries. He's basically saying, like, Royce thinks he's Siri. Like, he thinks he knows everything.
What's Siri to Steve Jobs? A button to Tahiri. I'm excessively cheery. Promote my nigga's theories.
What's Siri to Steve Jobs? It's the same thing that's a button, Joe Button, to Tahiri, is X. I'm not going to get into that right now. But Lupe is excessively cheery, and he'll promote his homie's theories. Like, he's supportive.
What's an alien to a Pentagon report? I see your brother trying to cheerlead. That's what he's supposed to do. And everybody that's fucking close to you.
Continuing on that comparison, from Siri to Steve Jobs, Button to Tahiri, what's an alien to a Pentagon report? I see your brother trying to cheerlead, and that's what he's supposed to do. So basically, the people around you you would expect them to cheerlead and be supportive and, you know, just be out there trying to hype you up.
Supposed to support, push you forth, and calm your black ass down, cause they ain't put you in the source. You chose violence.
Yeah, so just continuing on, you know, when you're doing these things, when you put out music, when you're doing stuff like that, people around you are supposed to support. At least that's the assumption. And by supporting you, they're pushing you forward, getting you more attention. And then he's just saying, calm down because they didn't put you in the source. Like, you're just upset because they didn't put you in the source. Sure. And then you chose violence, which is this whole back and forth that they're having.
I just wanna know when you gonna respond to Osiris and go to EO Dub, battling from a judge, instead of hitting smack and trying to entertain the thugs. Come and fuck with us, nerds.
So basically, Osiris had, you know, put out a few diss tracks towards Royce, and he's like, yo, when you gonna respond to Osiris? And just, instead of just, you know, putting out a track, just, you know, go to EO Dub and battle him. Just make it a battle rap. Instead of just hitting up smack and just trying to be entertaining. Like, yo, just go out there and do it. And he's like, come fuck with us nerds. I don't think that's Lupe saying that he is trying to be a battle rapper, but it sure sounds like it there. Overall, I've been talking way too much now. But this track has a lot going on. The gist of it is essentially just that Lupe is better than Royce. And that's what Lupe feels. And in general, I mean, I personally am a bigger Lupe fan than Royce fan. They're both really dope. And it's kind of interesting that they're having this back and forth. At first, like I said, it did sound kind of playful. And, like, you know, I was like, oh, they're just messing around. They're just joking. But now it's like, oh, like with this track especially, like, things are a bit more serious. But yeah, I'm curious to see where things go from here, because are we going to get a response from Royce? And then are we going to get SLR 4? Because Super Lupe Raps, you know, those are some pretty big tracks. And for this to only be 3.5 and not a full 4, I mean, you can assume that this means that it's going to be, like, he's not even putting his whole effort into it. He's only putting half of an effort into it. So it's like, if you bring out 4, where are we going to go with that? Like, is he just going to go even harder? Like, I kind of want that, but I'm also like, it's not necessary. Like, Royce, you don't need to do that. But, I mean, again, we'll see what Royce ends up doing. Who knows? They might even do a podcast and just talk about it there. Maybe this is just hyping up something else. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I think I'll just end it there, though. I enjoyed this track. I really like the beat. It was produced by Soundtrack. But yeah, it's a long song with a lot of words to be said. So in the comments below, let me know what you thought of this track, and let me know if I missed something or misinterpreted anything with the lyrics, because as I mentioned, there's a few spots where I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. And also, I'm not super aware of, like, how serious this beef might actually be. Like I said, with this track, it sounds super real, but could just be on the surface. Also, remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content and breakdowns like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.